Hello, I'm Professor Donna Byrne at William Mitchell College of Law, and we are continuing our discussion of charitable trusts. Now, I want to point out just before we get going here that in this course, we're not really focused on the tax deduction. So keep in mind that for tax purposes, there may be some additional requirements of charitable trusts. Just because something qualifies as a charitable trust for our purposes here doesn't necessarily mean it will get you a tax deduction. Okay, when we left off, we were talking about what happens if we need to modify something about the trust. And we noted that in the Mayo case, which we talked about some time ago, the court was able to modify some administrative rules to make things work better. Now, we didn't actually modify the trust purpose, and we've said we can't modify a trust purpose. But what if the trust purpose can no longer be accomplished? In the case of charitable trusts, we have a doctrine called C-Pray, which allows us to modify a trust purpose. Now, C-Pray is not an exam strategy. It's based on French, although I think it should be spelled a little bit differently. But that's okay. We'll just take it for what it is. But you should be not afraid to say it. So say it out loud now. C-Pray. 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 All right? The C-Pray doctrine allows us to modify a trust to substitute a new purpose that is as close as possible to the original purpose. Not Cyprus. C-Pray. Okay, now the C-Pray doctrine in action shows up in the Obermeyer case, which I think you've read. And in this case, we'll start by describing the trust, as we always do. In this case, the trust went to nieces and nephews for life, with a remainder to the Washington University for its dental alumni fund. Now notice that this is a charitable remainder. Red flag of caution. If you want tax treatment for a charitable remainder, the lifetime interest has to be set up in very particular ways. See the estate and gift tax course. Well, what happened here, though, was that by the time we got around to needing to hand out the trust remainder, Washington University no longer had a dental school, and their dental alumni fund had been discontinued. So where would we give the money? Now, of course, the settlors' relatives were willing to take it. Of course they were. Who wouldn't be? But what was settlors' intent? Well, to apply C-Pray, we need to identify a general charitable intent. So our first question is, did the settlor have a general charitable intent? Because if he did, then we can modify the trust to further that general intent. Or did the settlor only have a specific charitable intent, right? So we wanted to benefit a specific fund and nothing else, such as in this case the dental alumni fund. In that case, if we couldn't do that, we would give the money back to the relatives. Well, in this case, the court found there was a general charitable intent, and that means we can think about using the C-Pray doctrine. So here are the three requirements for using C-Pray. We need a valid charitable trust, which means that we had a charitable purpose. That purpose has become impossible, impracticable, or illegal to carry out. And the settlor had a general charitable intent, as opposed to a specific one. Now, in this case, note one thing that's kind of important. This is not a charitable trust. Remember, the income interest went to nieces and nephews, right? But the remainder is charitable. And the court here says, we're going to apply the same doctrine about the trust purpose just to this remainder, even though this was not a charitable trust all along. So keep in mind that that might be an option, something you could argue for. All right? But this is not a charitable trust, so it still had to meet certain requirements like satisfying the rule against perpetuities. But we're still going to apply C-Pray. So how would you modify the trust purpose in this case? Would you benefit Washington University in some other capacity, or would you benefit some other dental organization? Here's where we have to identify Dr. Kimbrough's actual general intent? Was it about education or was it about dental medicine? The court says it was to further education and dental medicine at Washington University. Well, that's a challenge, but it turns out there were other ways to support dental education and research at Washington University. But what if there weren't, right? If there weren't, we would have a little bit of a stickier problem figuring out how to satisfy the general intent. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll look at the problems starting on page 480 in the next video. Thank you for watching.